The 2015 football season is nearly underway in the Three Rivers Conference, and the News Reporter will be there to cover all the action. I'm John Thomas, alongside News Reporter sports writers Franklin Davis and Dan Biser, and we're going to give you a little preview of the 2015 football season in the Three Rivers Conference. Thank you, Franklin and Dan, for being here and taking some time to talk a little football with us. So we'll go ahead and start with a couple of questions. One of the obvious ones is which team or teams could challenge for the conference title? And Franklin, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, I think, John, one of the obvious answers to that is Whiteville. Recent poll of the coaches and media, Whiteville unanimous #1. A lot of people returning on defense, and probably the least number of question marks with the Whiteville football team of any team in the conference. So I'd say Whiteville would be the choice right now to take the conference.
And Dan, do you think there's another team that could challenge Whiteville?
Possibly, but at this point, Whiteville's reached a point that's become pretty established under Coach Luke Little. And the other teams, they say they've had 3 teams who underwent transitions last year with new coaches. And we got all 4 of the coaches back this year, so I'm looking for improvement from, the teams like East, South, and West Columbus. Just because they do have a lot they can improve upon, and I think you'll probably be seeing some good early efforts from those teams. But I think Whiteville's definitely the team to beat. And as far as the Robinson County teams, you never know with a team like Fairmont under a new coach who's been there and knows how things click in southeastern North Carolina football. And every time I look at a Red Springs football team, I think, man, this team looks like it could beat somebody. But and then you always got a South Robinson, which hasn't always had the best record, but are usually out there challenging some people. So, I think it's probably going to be another pretty good year for Whiteville, but let's expect somebody else from the pack to step up and give them a good challenge this year.
And that's a good segue into my next question, which is what team do you think could possibly be a sleeper or could be a team that might finish a little better than people expect this year? Franklin?
I think Red Springs definitely has the talent. Their coach, Coach Cook, exudes a very quiet confidence about his squad this year, his second year, so he's got a lot of things in place. And they've got talent. Graham, the running back they've got back, I understand, is getting some looks from some Division I schools. They played Whiteville tough last year, and so I would expect Red Springs to make some noise. St. Paul's is another team that may jump up and surprise some people and could finish up in the top 2 or 3, just depending on the breaks of the game.
Dan, any sleepers that you have in mind?
Well, like I said, what Franklin mentioned, I think there are some good athletes throughout the conference. And I say West Columbus has 4 or 5 that could be considered among the best. I think they're going to have what their problem was last year, some lack of depth and maybe some overall size and talent at different positions. But you even have to look at East Columbus, some of the fact of saying I think they're going to be a better football team this year. And last year they gave St. Paul's a game they had to play in the 4th quarter. So I don't know. And it's like I said earlier, what Franklin just alluded to. Red Springs has some potential, and I think if they get things going right, they hit a couple of rough spots last year, but they still have a good football team. And look at St. Paul's; they're the only team that's beaten South Columbus in the last 2 years, in both of the last 2 years. So Coach Trey Sasser's got a good group. He's got a good group of assistants, and I'm looking for them to be better also. So like I said, there may be 3 or 4 teams, battling hard going in the next to last week of the season.
So also with all these teams that could be, potentially strong opponents, there should be some good conference games. Franklin, what's a game or 2 that you're looking forward to on the Three Rivers schedule?
It's not a conference game, but a game I'm really looking forward to is East Columbus's opening game with Word of God, and I think that's going to be a key to the Gator season. If they can pull out a victory and get some confidence, then that sets them up for some success down the road. As far as conference games, I think the South Columbus-St. Paul's game, since St. Paul's has defeated in the last 2 years, is a big game. And Whiteville's matchups with Fairmont and Red Springs are going to be key, and they come in week 2 and week 3 of conference play. Whiteville has both of those teams at home, which I think benefits them.
Dan, anything to add to those games?
Well, you always got to look forward to the Whiteville-South Columbus game. I think the momentum's kind of turning in Whiteville's direction, but you never count out either team in this game, even though for the last decade or so, South Columbus has dominated the series. But that's always a good game, no matter where it's played and what the records are. And let's look at East Columbus, West Columbus. You know, they played each other twice last year. This year it'll be, you know, a situation where they only play once. And I think Coach Rocky Lewis is getting some things going down there. Of course, last year things were, you know, it was pretty much of a struggle from the start. And but I think he'll probably be getting some things out of his team this year. I'm not talking about the way of many victories, but always I think they'll be ready to take the field and go after some people this year. And like I say, the Word of God game and their game with Jones Senior, I think those are winnable football games for the Gators. And if they can get those wins, I think they'll be ready to take some confidence into Three Rivers Conference play.
Well, we've discussed the teams. Now we might look at some of the individual players. Dan, we'll start with you this time. What player in the conference or players do you think could be some effective offensive contributors, maybe be Conference Player of the Year on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, it's really that's going to be a tough one, but I understand Fred Evans is back for West Columbus, and the kid has got speed and athleticism. He had a good season last year. In fact, when they went up and beat Elkin, he had a magnificent game, and he's capable of putting up some good numbers. And the deal is, can he get the support he needs as far as a good running back, defensive back? There's also I don't know. I like the linebacker situation at Whiteville High School, where you got Andrew Powell and Garrett Wilson. Those two kids are, when they're out there, they pretty much run the show as far as what the defense does for Whiteville. And I think Garrett was preseason All-State last year, and Andrew came out of nowhere to become All-State and lead the team in tackles. And everybody starts looking at him and saying, "No, where did this kid come from?" And he has done a heck of a job. And of course, they've got a good defense. Raekwon McAllister in the defensive secondary, along with Wesley Thompson. Those kids had great seasons last year. I think one thing we're going to miss is the place kicker they've had the last 3 years, Gerardo Maggioli. He was automatic on extra point kicks. Didn't have that much to do with field goals this past year, but as a junior, he kicked some big ones. And I just think those are some of the players to look for. Dennis Leggett at South Columbus. I look for him to have another good year, and there's just a lot of. I think you're going to find somebody from some team step up this year, kind of like Andrew Powell did this past year, step up and really give people a reason to take notice. And don't know where it'll come from yet, but it generally happens.
What about you, Franklin? A player to watch for me on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball?
Dan mentioned a lot of the people that I have on my list. I think Nadir Carr, his performance for Whiteville, the way he performs offensively, is going to determine what kind of year Whiteville has offensively. I've already mentioned Eric Graham over at Red Springs. Julius Calder at Fairmont. Calder threw for over 3,000 yards last year, but Fairmont was pass happy last year. Under Coach Heil, they're going to be much more run oriented, and I'm curious to see how Calder fits in to that offense over there, how he utilizes him. Leggett at South Columbus is a good running back. Johnny McFadden, quarterback at West Columbus, back with experience. In fact, I think 7 of the 8 starting quarterbacks from last year are back in the conference this year, even though it's still primarily a running the football league. Powell and Wilson at linebacker for Whiteville, great dynamic duo there. And they've got a sophomore, Moncovia Gaffney, who I think is really going to step up and be a name that you hear a lot of this year. Raekwon McAllister in the secondary also will be a force to be reckoned with.
And we've touched on this a little bit already, but Dan, which one team do you think will be most improved from the 2014 season?
Well, I don't know what improvement is, but I think at East Columbus, the only way is up. And I think you'll see some improvement among their ranks because they had kids who played last year as freshmen and sophomores. And they're probably the most dedicated ones, as far as returnees and stuff like that. But and they do have some good upperclassmen. And but as far as overall improvement, I would probably say Fairmont and Red Springs, just because what the potential they have, and you might want to throw in St. Paul's. I mean, I think Robeson County, whoever wins that county championship, is going to be pretty good.
Franklin, a most improved team.
I totally agree with what Dan says about East Columbus. East Columbus is going to be improved, whether or not their record shows it. I don't know. That's why I go back to saying that Word of God game is so important, and just the fact that he has a little bit easier non-conference schedule, I think, should help the Gators. If Fairmont improves the defensive side of the football, and they can't get any worse on the defensive side, and I'm quoting the coach, that's not just my opinion on that, they're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I think that's why they were the number 2 team picked by the coaches, thinking that the athletes are over there, and with some emphasis on defense, they'll get better. If Red Springs does improve, then they're definitely going to compete for the championship. So basically, I just want to reiterate what Dan said as far as his opinions on those. I agree with those totally.
If you had to pick a winner right now, would it be Whiteville, Dan?
As of right now, yes. End of the season, who knows?
Franklin, Whiteville?
Yeah, right now, from no other reason the majority of the defense being back and how strong their linebacking core is. And Carr on offense, yeah.
So Whiteville, the consensus to win the conference, but it should be an exciting football season. Plenty of teams that could challenge the Wolfpack. Well, Franklin, Dan, thank you for taking some time out and talking a little football with us. This has been a Pigskin preview with Franklin Davis and Dan Biser of the News Reporter. I'm John Thomas, signing off.